Welcome to the Mostly Star Wars podcast. Today we're going to be talking about all things episode 3 of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Super excited to talk about this episode. I think we all collectively had our minds blown, so we're all super excited to talk about everything that we feasted our eyes on in this episode. But as always, I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. We have mostly Darth, Tyler.
Hello there.
And then we have crazy Quentin.
Hello.
And myself, mostly Martinez, Josiah. So I think jumping right into it, how did we all feel within like the first 3 minutes of this episode?
This episode was heavy, and yeah, there's just a lot going on with the realization of Vader being alive and him seeing flashbacks. He's still trying to call to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And it just started off heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
All those flashbacks of the prequel voices and just give you the chills of those epic moments that were so emotional to him in his life.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing that everybody was super excited to see, once again in live action, but maybe a little bit longer in the inside and everything, is we got to see Vader's castle. So that's always awesome to see. You know, we had a little bit in Rogue One, but yeah, this was just so cool to see it again.
I love the symmetry between him having those images and those flashbacks to the prequels, the stuff that happened in the prequels, and he has those flashbacks at the same time while Vader's being rebuilt. He's being put into the scene, and you know that something's coming this episode. We're gonna get something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool how they did that.
I liked, especially when we start talking about that very beginning, when he's trying to use the Force and call out to Qui-Gon, you get this moment where Leia asks about how the Force feels.
Yeah.
And he asks, well, have you ever been scared of the dark? And how do you feel once you turn the light on? Well, you feel safe.
Yeah.
He's saying that's what the Force feels like. I get from these last couple episodes, and even this one, Obi-Wan doesn't feel very safe.
He's been living in the dark.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was one of but it just like Leia in being intrigued of what the Force feels like was just awesome to hear.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up about how he described it, what the Force feels like, to we seeing him in these first 3 episodes not really being connected to the Force like he had been since he was a Padawan. So for the first time, he felt like he was afraid in the dark. He didn't feel safe. He didn't feel warm, or friendly. So I think that that same, I guess, mindset that he has about the Force carries on towards the end of the episode that we're going to get to later. But then you can kind of see how his actions made sense based on his connection to the Force at that time.
Yeah, he's definitely, he's almost haunted, and his connection is only somewhat there at this point.
Yeah.
And you can really see that. And I really liked how this episode started off with, it really did a good job of showing that Obi-Wan has been just sitting in his cave on Tatooine, looking at Luke once in a while, making sure he's okay. But that's all he's been doing. He doesn't even know what's going on in the world anymore.
Yeah. Well, he also is shopping and buying toys for him, but
Yeah. From the little Jawas.
yeah.
And he has no trust for anyone. Just
Mhm.
completely. No, there's no way anyone out there is there to help him. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel like Leia is showing the exact opposite of that. She is a little too trustworthy. She still trusts anybody who comes across their path. Oh, hey, this person looks nice. They'll help us, which could
Mhm.
lead to danger later on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing is we get like a kind of glimpse at Vader early on too, when he's his famous self, and you guys brought it up earlier too, but about fail Vader and you will not live to regret it, or live to, yeah. So I think that in itself too kind
Mm-hmm.
of is a good setup to all this, because we have the Vader that we saw in the original trilogy, right? And there is a certain power to him. There's a certain fear of him to some extent, but there's also on the other side, you have regular human imperial officers that are standing up to him, right? In the original trilogy. And so I think there's kind of like a little bit of a back and forth there. Like, is this like the most evil villain of all time? If so, then how is like just a random officer gonna try to stand up to him, right? And then I think we get a little bit more in Rogue One, where you kind of feel like, okay, yeah, this is a bad guy and everybody knows it. And I feel like this was like a good kind of start to the episode too. We have, you know, uh, highly skilled, inquisitors, assassins who are afraid for their life to disappoint or disobey Vader. So I think that kind of sets the theme of this, that once again, once we get to talking about the end, you're like, okay, I can see why they're afraid of him.
In the Empire, you either get promoted or you get dead.
Yeah.
If you fail, you won't fail
Yeah.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get promoted because somebody got dead.
Yeah, that too.
Because he
They
warns.
disappointed Vader. I get a promotion.
He
Yeah.
warns
I'm gonna
Reva.
die next week when I disappoint him.
Uh-huh.
he warns her. You want that Grand Inquisitor spot, but if you fail me, you ain't gonna ever live to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so
Yeah.
menacing the way he says it, and that was a chilling moment.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I like how you brought out about no one. Obi-Wan doesn't really trust anyone because he basically chastises Leia. Not everyone is good, Leia,
Yeah.
and at the same time, Leia's like, not everyone is bad, Obi.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have to get out of your little cave there and kind of stop sulking a little bit. I kind of feel like. Oh, go ahead, Q.
I was gonna say, Obi feels like it's that not anyone is good. Not that most everyone's bad, but that everyone is out to get him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. But at the same time, and then that's why it was kind of special when was it Talia, and she comes and rescues him, Tala,
Mm-hmm.
and she rescues him, and she's an Imperial officer, and he says, well, yeah, I left because honestly, I didn't think anyone was coming.
Yeah.
He didn't believe that anyone was going to come and help them, and so he just left. And she flat out says, you're not alone, Obi-Wan. There are people out here that are not, or for you. She even says at one point, I can't imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi doing anything bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, I like that.
he emphasizes what he has become because he goes, it's Ben these days, saying, no, I'm Ben now, and what you might think of me is not necessarily who I am anymore. I'm much more broken.
Mm-hmm.
We're skipping ahead a little here. Let's talk about the little shuttle ride with our new character Freck.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I liked he was a little goofy, and it being Zach Braff was awesome.
Yeah, he looks like a mole, right?
Yeah,
you know,
kind of. But then they introduce themselves, and the first thing he says is, "Well, that's a weird story."
Yeah,
like right off the bat, he's a little suspicious of them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I kind of like his character. He's just kind of like a happy-go-lucky, kind of just goes with the flow per se. No resistance. In really either way. Obviously there wasn't much resistance when it came to the Empire taking over, and then basically now he has a Jedi who's smuggling a child in kind of the same way, just goes with the flow. And
he was basically, I think, the example of the Empire propaganda working perfectly.
Yeah.
He thinks the Empire's good. Even Leia said, I thought the Empire was supposed to be helping people. I thought it was a good thing. And Obi-Wan mentions that, well, there are some people like your dad trying. But he's trying to tell her the Empire's bad.
Yeah.
But
even go ahead, Josiah.
Oh, I was just gonna read what Seth said. He said Zach Braff, mole boy, got what was coming to him.
Oh man, I don't think he was a bad character. He didn't. It's not that he had a love for this unjust empire, but he's like a kind of guy who likes a little order. The Empire has given him protections, hasn't done anything wrong to him, which is kind of strange in a way since he's an alien and the Empire doesn't treat aliens that well. But the stormtroopers that he dealt with seemed friendly. They weren't bad people. They were just there doing their job. And I mean, even to be the point of being scared of the Jedi, I'm glad that Obi-Wan didn't kill him. At least it didn't seem like he did. Just kind of knocked him out.
Yeah, he just popped him in the back of the head.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. If you had some strange people in your rig and the authorities were like, one of these guys, you might go, I know, I just picked it up. Maybe you want to talk to them a bit. It's not like you really did anything wrong, right?
Yeah.
Brandon says he has no idea going on. No idea what was going on.
Well, I do feel like, in a way, to go with what Brendan was just saying, I feel like kind of in a way, just because of the type of character he was, the person he was, I feel like he was friendly to everybody, but he was suspicious. And so he understood there was like something going on. So I feel like in a way he knew too much. If he was oblivious, maybe he could have like got away with it. But because he knew there was a little something off with them, then he had to go ahead and snitch on them. And we all know what happens to snitches. So
he knew just enough to actually get himself in trouble.
Yeah.
But he was. I liked his character though. I mean, because right after you meet him, or right before that, Obi-Wan's talking about how this. I had it. What was the name of the planet? Mazupo.
Or really?
I wrote it down in my notes. Where was it?
Yeah, I'm spacing out how you say it's like
Mapuzo. Mapuzo. That's where it was.
Yeah.
But he was saying how it was all farms and families, and the Empire came and everything's gone, and it's all just a open plains area, and there's nothing around.
Yeah.
And but then you've got this guy over here who's, Toll, those are good people. They obey the Empire. He's like, nothing wrong with a little order.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, kind of going, to the previous statement about him kind of going with the flow, that's not a bad thing, and I feel like, it's just like, anywhere else that you live on earth, there's going to be like governmental authorities. There's going to be, someone that's in power that's going to attempt to, have law and order. And so I feel like his character is like, it doesn't really matter who's in charge, as long as it's not really affecting his livelihood too much, he's going to go along with it. And it kind of, they made it a point, to show when they're getting into the back of his vehicle, it had like, he had put on like a little Empire plaque. And I don't know if you guys felt this way. I feel like he made that, like that wasn't like Empire
or made by
issued.
someone.
Like,
Yeah, it was not.
it was like handmade.
It was like hand painted. Yeah.
I could see that.
And so I was like, I don't know if maybe he was just like, oh, okay, these are, the people in charge now. I'm just going to kind of go along with that and, kind of support the people in charge.
Sad. Yep. Snitches, that's what they get.
Well, another part during that ride, when the stormtroopers are on there, and Obi-Wan accidentally calls Leia, and the stormtroopers question it and talks about how that was her mother's name, and Obi-Wan says, when he looks at Leia, he sees her mother and he misses her, and you could tell in that moment that he was being completely truthful in those words he was saying. She reminds him of her mother and he misses her.
And then that moment where they have the kind of talk of how he comforts her by saying, hey, I'm an orphan too, kind of.
Yeah.
And has that. And Obi-Wan has a brother.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I like that kind of deep dive because it kind of it gave me like made me like start thinking about the Dooku book once again, because that really kind of drives home the point that, kind of like Anakin, these young Padawans, when they get taken, they have a family. They have, mothers and fathers usually. And, sometimes they have siblings. And if they were taken at an age where they can, kind of have brief glimpses, that is something that's going to stay with you for life. Like the memories of those, the siblings or your parents, or maybe you had a good friend, right. Even at a very young age. So I thought that was actually a really good point that they kind of drew onto that, like, I guess drawing you a little closer to the character and, kind of everything that he went through, because when we see him, he never obviously mentions it in the prequels. He's on his mission, he's doing his job, but like now, and whether it's because of the state he's in or whether it's because he's with Leia and has like an epiphany and kind of is relating and opening up to the situation. But either way, I feel like that really humanized his character even more so.
Yeah, and I feel like those moments, because Obi-Wan kept saying how much she reminded him of Padme, but then Leia goes to ask questions about her father, right? And asks if Obi-Wan is her father, and now he's got to be thinking about Anakin during this time, right? This wonderful young girl is Anakin's daughter, and he needs to protect her from that.
Yeah, that was it pulls at your heartstrings, because he says I wish I was your father.
Yeah.
And
that was huge.
And you kind of, in a way you are, but and no one knows your parents better than he does. No one knows Anakin or Padme better than Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And just all the moments where, and I think Seth brought it out, like how Obi-Wan told Leia to, let him do the talking, and he's the one that messed up. And I was rewatching it, and I focused on Leia's character after he does it, and she's still like what do I do now? She's trying to like keep moving on, but it's kind of funny. And then when he says it, he's like, oh, but that story of just she just reminds me of her mother every time I look at her, and it's like, oh, that's so sad. And you just
how about a round of applause for that actress and how good she's portraying young Leia. I think she's just done fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. She's like spot on. I feel like it's totally her. I think when you first kind of get like the glimpse of her, you're kind of like wrapping your mind around it. But now, like only 3 episodes deep, like it is her. Like I don't even think of it as anybody else or an actress or anything. I'm totally like 100% that is like little Leia. And so I love it.
I totally agree with that.
Now that part where Obi-Wan asks how old she is, and she says she's 10, and he goes, "You don't act 10." Well, if you think about it, in episode 4, A New Hope, when we first meet Leia, she's 18, 19 years old, a very key player in the rebellion, going on all this. She's a very mature individual at that point. So it makes total sense that little 10-year-old Leia is adventurous. She's smart. She's always trying to learn new things, and she thinks everybody's there to help people, and she wants to be there to help other people as well.
And she's caring. She's caring about the little droids. She's showing kindness to the droids. She's showing all these manners. Just so well educated. And I like that scene in I think it was the first episode where Bail Organa says, "No, you are an Organa. You're everything that is an Organa," and it's true. She really is. She's both.
Yeah.
Because when she is everything that, I think Quentin brought this part out last time, but she loves droids like Anakin. She's very smart and caring and stubborn like Padme, but she's also showing a lot of the things that Bail Organa is. And so you can really see that.
Yeah.
It's interesting in Star Wars. She's basically the daughter of 2 planets, Alderaan and Naboo, and both of those planets are known for helping others.
Yeah.
And so she's got a lot of that in her, the teachings that she's learning about is to be there to help others in need.
Yeah. And it couldn't have been a better place for her to grow up in these circumstances, because once again, we kind of talked about this before too, but drawing connections between Naboo, and Alderaan, there's so many connections. And so it's really cool that she's kind of getting to grow up the way that her mother did. And so it kind of makes sense that, she's going to have, kind of similar motives and like thinkings and viewpoints, because she grew up in a similar environment, because, her adoptive parents are also very caring, and they're going to do what's right, even, if it's going against everybody else. So they're going to fight for injustice and things like that. So I thought that was a really good, and kind of jumping into what Seth was talking about again. He said, think about that statement though. There's so much there. He wishes he was her father. He wishes she had a father. He wishes that she had Anakin and Padme. And he wishes that he could have had children with Satine. And I think that is an awesome statement, because I feel like, though he was saying, yeah, I wish that was your father, I feel like he more has feelings that, in another twist, if Anakin, would have, went against Palpatine, made the right choice at that moment, and Luke and Leia were born, most likely Obi-Wan would be their protector, whether it was helping like hide the children, or he would be like the godfather if anything were to happen to them. He would take care of them. He would probably grow up like an uncle figure, to them. So I think, playing along with that, I think it is really difficult for him to not tell the story, because she's not just some random girl. The dad, her father, adopted father, isn't just, some guy that, they knew from the past in the war.
Yep.
He knows so much that he can't say. And so I feel like all these little moments that he's giving a little bit is just, like gut wrenching, because, he wants to say everything, and, that he loves her, because he really does. That's, two of his best friends in the world's child, so I think, that definitely was pretty deep of a conversation, even though it was like real brief,
I wanted to bring up this idea that Tyler mentioned earlier, that Obi-Wan knew Anakin and Padme better than anyone else, but I don't necessarily know if that's completely true. I know obviously he knew Anakin better than anyone else, and he probably knew them as a couple better than anyone else, but Padme worked alongside Bail Organa in almost everything she did in the Senate. They agreed on almost every single topic, right? That they were working together closely. Bail Organa was a mentor to Padme when she became a senator. So so obviously he had this close relationship with her as well. So it's not just, an important child that somebody needed to take, right? He had this relationship with their mother, and he knew how she acted, who she was, and what she stood for.
Yeah, that's true.
Did anyone else? I was watching that, and right when they get to the checkpoint, I'm like, no, there's like 2 more sentences. Come on. 2 more sentences need to be said. Of like just that little extra, and like a stinking empire ruining every good moment. Like I feel like there's just like 2 more sentences that he needed to say to her, and he just got interrupted.
Yeah, and, definitely.
And that kind of brings us to that checkpoint part where Freck's like, hey, you might want to check these guys out. And poor old Freck there, sticking his mole face in where it don't belong.
I think so another interesting thing before we get out of the vehicle here, there's one last thing. What did you guys think about, I feel like the way it was written, and the way the actors played, they were making it a point to show these are not clones. Like all of
because they had different voices.
They had different voices. They acted different. Some were like kind of like more, sit up straight. There's another that seemed like he was more slouchy, and their conversations. Like I felt they did a really great job of not coming out and saying it. But we had the clone that was begging for money, and then now we have these other ones that are clearly different people.
Does anyone else, when you hear them talk, think trying to figure out who's cameoing that?
That is true.
Because especially in Disney stuff, a lot of a lot of stormtroopers in one way or another are cameos of people, and so I'm like trying to listen to their voices to see like, is that someone I like? Who is that?
Yeah, I think with it we have to bring up what Brendan just said. He said, I think I heard a female voice too. Now I really want to find out who they are, because if they're all male, then Brendan just called one of them a girl. So
no, I think I know what he's talking about, because I think it's the scene after the checkpoint when the vehicle rolls up and the more stormtroopers come out. It's that scene right there. It sounds like there's possibly one of them is female.
Like from the tower, you mean?
No, from the vehicle that the Imperial officer is in, And the stormtroopers come out the front of that and tell him to, get on the ground and to put his weapon down.
Yeah, I could totally.
Yeah. Oh man, I have to watch that again now.
I also heard like it wasn't them doing the Wilhelm scream, but it was almost like someone was imitating it. When there was the one up top.
To do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. that was a good Easter egg, I thought.
Mm-hmm. I love, once again, in Star Wars, when you need a gate or door opened and the controls aren't working, you just shoot them, and whatever you need to happen will happen.
Yes.
Blasted it, and the fence went down. You got to run, and you got to start moving again.
Yeah. Did you guys see the meme of it's like the one guy that always like shows people that are like struggling with something and then like how to do it the easy way? It was kind of funny that they couldn't have just made the fence longer, put the fence farther than we can see on screen, but they literally had it just right there. Like there's no way that this, hovering vehicle couldn't have went around that gate.
Well, I mean, because there's a hill there, so I thought like, okay, they're not necessarily gonna take the speeder. They could have just like walked around it.
Yeah.
But but I'm like
easily walked around.
But then I justify. See, this is what I do. I kind of do these things where I try to justify things in my mind when I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, this is mostly a vehicle checkpoint, so it's here to stop a vehicle. It's not necessarily to stop someone from walking around it, or it's someone's hauling some goods that he shouldn't. That's more what it's for.
Yeah.
That's the way I justified it in my mind anyway.
Okay, yeah, I can go with that.
This is why I like Star Wars better than maybe some other, star named franchises.
Yeah.
Because one thing you can do with Star Wars is because it leans more on the fantasy side. You can be like, it can be explained with Star Wars logic. And so you don't necessarily, you're not taken out of the story, I feel like, as much. If you're like, no, that's not realistic. You'd be like, I'm sure they can explain it with the Force or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Seth over here. He's helping us out. He said it's a wide open field. You'd get spotted so easily from the troopers keeping watch on the towers. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
We got these towers. If someone's avoiding the checkpoint on purpose, they would know that something's up. So that's where it is. You got to go directly through those checkpoints or you'd get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and so then Tala shows up, and he gets down on his hands and knees and buries his head basically, and then she does the whole General Hux thing and shoots them all in the back.
Yeah. Were you guys expecting that?
No, I was not.
I was expecting I almost was expecting an Easter egg, because I thought we were gonna see like Sloane, and before she was anything. That's kind of what I thought was gonna happen, like when she was just an Imperial officer on a backwater planet.
Ooh, that would have been cool.
So that was my first thought. But other than that, I was like, I did like that turn, and the way she talks to Obi-Wan is great.
Yeah. Did you guys see the leaked photos of this show of her?
No.
Oh, okay.
I knew she was in it. I had seen things she was in it, and I have a tendency to just look at her as a bad guy just because I'm a Battlestar fan.
Right.
So I just assume she's playing the bad guy.
Yeah. And I felt the exact same way. As soon as I knew that she was in it, that was the connections I drew. And then they had those leaked photos of her in Imperial uniform. And so then I think that's when everybody started getting excited, because they're like either Imperial officers are going to go to Tatooine, or maybe Obi-Wan is going to leave Tatooine somehow. And so I think that's where there's a lot of like people getting excited about that. And so when I seen those pictures, she was just like walking, firm look on her face and everything like that. And I was like, oh man, she's going to be a great like Imperial officer, maybe like, in charge of an area or a certain situation or something like that. So when I saw her, I was like, oh man, like they're really going to get maybe like you know, they're going to try to get like arrested and they're going to have to escape somehow, or, you know,
Yep.
something along those lines. I did not expect, you know, her to, you know, turn coat right there. That was amazing.
And I like that she wasn't like hiding or just, you know, faking being an Imperial officer. She actually is an Imperial officer.
Yeah.
And she talked about joining up when she thought the Empire was doing good, and then by the time she learned what it really was about, it was too late. So now she spends her ability as an officer to help these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think so far she's been a great character.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a Tala show.
Yeah, we see these little moments
Pre
of her.
Obi-Wan, what's she doing with Quinlan Voss?
Yeah.
Let's get that show.
Yeah, because, well, the first thing I think of like wanting to know more is she says, I figured it out too late, which to me means she did something bad.
Mm-hmm.
She did something she regrets.
Yeah.
She hurt someone,
and she gave orders that weren't actually there to help people. It probably ended up killing a bunch of people or something, and then
Mm-hmm.
you know she couldn't go back from that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that just, those a few sentences right there just build an excellent character. And
Yeah.
thing I say, hey, you want to see this? But I feel like this is exactly the kind of show we're about to get in the Andor series. We're gonna get. I mean, he's basically the same, except he's a rebel. So it's just kind of backwards, but it's not necessarily much different.
Yeah, and
what
maybe
if by the time the Andor series rolls around, because it's obviously years later than this, so she could have been found out by the Empire and had to run, and then just officially be part of the Alliance, and she could be helping Andor on missions. Come on, I wouldn't be against that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I was thinking also Jedi Survivor. So we have now a possibility of, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I'll already drop his name, but we have Quinlan Voss. So there's already been like hints that possibly Quinlan Voss is in the teaser of Jedi Survivor in the Back to Tank. So now we have Tala, who knows Quinlan. So could she end up being a cameo in Jedi Survivor?
She says that he helps younglings escape, which means to me that he's been there more than once.
Yeah, multiple occasions.
Yeah, she's met him and helped him do this multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that was one of the moments you can kind of see on Obi-Wan's face where he kind of realizes, yeah, I've been sitting in a cave here, and I don't know, I haven't been doing enough. I kind of maybe regret just sitting in this cave a little bit because I see Quinlan doing the work, and that
she talks about. Go ahead.
Sorry, go. Okay, well, I was just saying that he's realizing that there's other people out there, because before, especially at the beginning of this episode, he thinks he's alone. He thinks he is all alone. He's the only Jedi left, maybe besides Yoda, and he knows that Yoda's hiding on Dagobah, and that's about it. And he doesn't think there's good people because he thinks good people have been ran over by the Empire.
And the Jedi lost. The Jedi are over.
And
there are no more Jedi. And
so you see him kind of building this back up when he reads Quinlan's name and she tells him the story, and then she says, I can't imagine Obi-Wan doing anything bad. You kind of get this, you can see it on his face of like, what have I been doing? I haven't been helping like I should. I haven't been facing. And then I think because of that, he almost makes a dumb move. Instead of just like running, he should have said, nope, that's Vader. That's not Anakin. Let's get out of here. Instead, but he tries to lead him off, which is not necessarily the right choice, I think. I think he does it almost a little bit out of guilt out of guilt because he is kind of sad and disappointed on himself that he hasn't been doing more, but he's in no condition to face Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Vader just destroys him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I think
Q
we
had a
should
point.
jump. Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
wanted to bring up one more thing about Tala and her safe house. She
Yeah.
says that it's not the only one. They're on
Mhm.
systems across the galaxy,
Yeah.
and she even brings up that some call it the Path,
Yeah.
which I thought was a real interesting name. And it's to, they say it saves Jedi, and it gets them. It leads to a planet called, I'm assuming this is a planet, a system called Jabim, where they get new identities, and then they move on from there. And I thought that that's just real interesting that he's learning. It's, he thought this was amazing. Look, there's one person here and a safe house helping people, but no, this is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And she also
Yeah.
mentions that he's not the first Jedi to come through here, and we know that.
And I don't think she's talking about Quinlan when she says that.
because well, I mean, I think she might be including him in that, but it does not sound like only one other Jedi has been here. It sounds like there's been several other Jedi that have been through here to help people.
I mean,
Yeah.
the term Jedi is both singular and plural.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just thought it was real interesting that they called it the Path, is what it's called.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up too. Just talk a little bit more about that, because I feel like since we're kind of talking about Obi-Wan and, kind of his change of perspective, his change of heart, if you want to call it that, in this episode, when he sees what Tala's doing. Because first, he sees, man, she's risking herself. She's killing, like stormtroopers and stuff, all, in the hope to save and protect Jedi and Force sensitive people, right? But then when she starts describing what she's doing, like you said, it isn't just a one-off thing. She isn't just like, oh, right now I just had a change of heart and I want to help just you. But then his eyes are even open wider when he realizes, there's not just a few there, of Jedi, and they're all hiding or whatever, but there is people, both Jedi, Force sensitive and not, that are helping. He got a glimpse of that before with the guy that was pretending to be a Jedi, but he's starting to see that there's pockets around that, they do have that spark of wanting to do the right thing, wanting to help and protect. And they know that the Empire's not right. It's, that they're, it's not just there to help. Right. And I kind of feel like this is a good, there's like a good correlation with, like the Underground Railroad, right? During that time, there's a lot of people that helped on that, that were, working for the other side, or, were like children of slave owners, right? So they still hung around the same people, the same crowds, went to parties with people who were for slavery. However, they knew it was wrong, but they continued to have relations with people that were slave owners so that they could help get people up north into safety. And I feel like this is a very similar thing like Tala. So she feels that the best way that she can help is to continue to be, undercover now, where she's still going to have to do quote unquote bad things and still technically helping the Empire, but she can do more good doing that, than to leave or desert, right? And so I feel like in this situation, it's also helping Obi-Wan to see that as well. Maybe he doesn't have to do all these grandiose things, pulling out his lightsaber at any moment, but he still can be he can secretly still be doing good. He doesn't just have to be sitting in his cave. He can still do good and not be so showy about it.
Oh, I like that. And I just kind of wanted to bring out what Brennan said about tying into a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that. At first, I didn't draw the connections that maybe he did, but after realizing, I think it's about someone and a group of kids that get stranded, right? Something like that. That was the synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
But the only person that's the only information other than that, I think, is that Jude Law is in it. And so is Jude Law going to be Quinlan? If that really did tie into it?
Possible.
He does kind of have that quirkiness to him. I could see him
Mm-hmm.
especially if
playing
he's,
that role a little
especially
bit.
because I think that quirkiness could be there, but I'm almost willing to bet you that Quinlan's quirkiness is a little bit toned down now.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely had to mature.
And well, not
Mhm.
just that, but just age itself.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's 10 years later. He's going to be older. He's the same age as Obi-Wan. He's going to be 40, almost 50. He might be close to 50.
Yeah, I
So
feel like he might.
it's an interesting point.
The quirkiness, I feel
I
like
think it could work.
at that point is probably there in his words, but less so in his actions. His actions would be more serious and more thought out.
Yeah.
Well, even Yoda was quirky at first when you first meet him. He's just the weird old. Yeah, his laugh. I love his laugh. But yeah, that was an interesting point. I thought that was a good point there, Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh yeah, okay. So another thing you put in your notes that Leia wants to learn how to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Can you teach me how to shoot?" She's like, "Oh, she'll be a great warrior someday, or a great fighter."
Yeah.
He's like, "I do think you're right." He just knows. It's so interesting, just in the fact that because he knows their parents so well and how much there's in them, that he can see who they are becoming, especially Leia. And I think that moment is kind of interesting because he refused to go. He didn't know anything about her really before the show started because he flat out told Bill no, that he wasn't going to go and go retrieve her.
Yeah.
He told him no, and Bill had to go into his cave, go find him in his cave in Tatooine, and tell him, no, you know how important she is. You need to go find her. I think Obi-Wan is seeing how important she is.
Yeah.
He's realizing that, well, I think Bale's right. She is just as important. When you hear her talk, the way she talks, she is just as important as anyone, really.
Yeah.
So then after all that, we get the truly terrifying moments.
Yeah. I think like when you're inside and they're like in the conference room, right? All the Inquisitors. Did you guys see that? Like people were like, you know, zooming up on their displays that there's like a bunch of lightsabers and possibly like the little Padawans helmets. Did you guys see that?
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh man,
I must have missed that. Oh goodness.
Oh man. Oh, you guys gotta look that up. But so when they're all in the conference room and they're kind of talking, in the background, there's, you know, it's like a red kind of velvet, like all the way around the room, and there's like lightsabers laying on it. And then in between, there's a couple cylindrical, you know, or not cylindrical, like, you know, circular objects that appear to be the same little training helmets that the Padawans would wear. And so people are saying, like, thinking that that's like, you know, they kept those from their attack on the temple.
Interesting. Well, what if it was just the opposite? They kept those to use for their little Sith Inquisitors that they're making.
The little Sith Inquisitors. Yeah, maybe. Well, here's my other thing about it that I thought was interesting. I was like, you know, that definitely could be a possibility. It could be a possibility that the Inquisitors were keeping these sorts of mementos, I guess you could say. It could possibly be that Vader is keeping these sorts of mementos there. Or it could also possibly be that they were, you know, others maybe that had fallen, and it's there, you know, kind of like as a warning symbol, you know, or whatever. But because the one thing that I thought was interesting is that, you know, if you go to like, you know, the comics and things like that, when they got all those lightsabers, they were melting them. right? They were destroying those lightsabers. They
Mhm.
weren't keeping them as mementos per se. So, but I was like, then on the other hand, we also have
We
the
don't know
Dooku book.
anyone that collects lightsabers, do we?
Well, Dooku does,
No, I was
and
making
Grievous
it.
does.
I
Yeah,
was
I know.
making a Grievous joke.
Yeah, so Grievous definitely does, but those I feel like maybe could have been lost in that whole battle scene, but Dooku's that he had, you know, were just basically, there on Sereno. So
Mhm.
they're just like sitting there like Jedi's lightsabers. But yeah, I don't know. Have you guys pulled up that picture yet?
I was looking for it. I couldn't really find anything.
Oh man. But yeah, so I don't know. It's definitely interesting, and it's definitely, maybe it's not
I'll have to
in your,
rewatch it.
it's not like in your face, but definitely, yeah, when you pause it or freeze frame it or whatever, you can definitely tell it's lightsabers just all around the room. So they're definitely not the
And which
Inquisitors.
scene is that?
Oh, I
It's
think
like-
I've seen it. They're
It's like on
they're
the-
very small, but they're
Mhm.
like relics.
Yeah. So it's when they're in the conference room and Riva comes, and then
Okay, up in the red. Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I see
kinda
that.
it
So
there.
so that kind of reminds me because Kylo Ren would collect like the ashes of the people he killed, and that was where he kept
yeah,
his helmet.
that's true.
And so it's not. I could see that kind of fits with the lore of, and it also it fits with history. You take something
Mhm.
as a trophy of
Yeah.
of those you've killed.
Mhm.
I wonder if those are lightsabers that the Inquisitors themselves have killed, or are those Vader's prizes?
Yeah, that's what I was
I
wondering.
feel like if
his,
they were Vader's prize, they wouldn't be in. They'd be in Vader's castle, not on the. Yeah. What's the name of their base?
Inquisitorius.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like
true.
it's got to be theirs.
yeah.
Otherwise-
So
Why would it be there? And how cool is their fortress, man? When you first see it, when you're flying up to it.
I know. So if that's the case and they are the Inquisitors, then it would have to. I can't really see it then being Padawan's lightsabers because they weren't there.
Yeah, because the Inquisitors weren't really a thing yet.
So
When they
then
killed
it
all
kind of
those.
goes back to not knowing what the round objects are, and it's maybe just other lightsabers of the Jedis that they had killed.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah,
okay, we're kind of at the point where Vader's coming, and when Obi-Wan senses Vader's presence, he's so overwhelmed. It's not like, oh, I know, I sense that guy. He's overwhelmed. He's almost has as big a reaction as he does in A New Hope when he senses Alderaan has been destroyed.
mm-hmm.
And then Vader comes out and he's just taunting Obi-Wan. He's
Mhm.
taunting Obi-Wan's conscience to need to save people because he knows that's so wrong. And Vader just doesn't care that he's just killing random people. To him, all they are is objects to torture Obi-Wan's soul.
Yeah, and I think we need to jump back just one step, and we continue to do this. But did you guys think that Vader was going to walk out at that moment? Did you guys already know that?
What do you mean walk out? Like,
I mean, did you think he was coming to the planet? Because we have the Inquisitors all talking about it and stuff. And, we haven't even seen the Inquisitors, like, basically, try to take on Obi-Wan.
So, I didn't necessarily expect it in episode 3 already.
Yeah.
But then when I think about it, at that point in the episode, we're practically right in the middle of the show. So
yeah,
it kind of fit, and this wasn't necessarily. I did expect to see Vader, especially because we saw him early in the episode. I did expect him to be on the planet. I didn't expect him to have any actual contact in this episode.
Yeah, I kind of expected Obi-Wan to run away from him before in this episode, and we wouldn't get to see them fight. But obviously, I was wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another interesting thing, because I think when I first saw him, I was like, what? Because I was kind of, like you said, it's halfway through, but I kind of was thinking that Obi-Wan was going to encounter an Inquisitor and perhaps even, kill an Inquisitor. And then that kind of because Vader is usually, the type to just say, you guys go do this. You guys go do this. He's like a delegator. He doesn't necessarily have to get his hands dirty at this point, unless he absolutely has to. So I mean, one, it kind of shows, that he's like, this is obviously something that I need to get done myself or whatever, But yeah, when I first saw that, I was definitely shocked. And then I thought the same thing as Quentin, because they were on the verge of escaping. So I was like, oh man, we're so close to seeing this, but it's going to be like a passing type thing. But then, like what Tyler said, we basically got like a Dragon Ball Z situation. Like Obi-Wan was like, his power is over 9,000, like he's just like can sense his power, as, just like Sidious, he could sense Vader's power and it's like, whoa, this is a lot of power and it feels good because I control it. Right now, Obi-Wan's like, whoa, this is a lot of power and I cannot control it, but
Well, like you're saying, I'd feel like yes to the delegating to the Inquisitors, and he did that to the point of he's not going to follow rumors around the galaxy to get Obi-Wan, but if he's got confirmation that he's there, this is personal for him.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't want somebody else in this fight, and he doesn't even want Obi-Wan killed. He wants to
torture him,
to capture Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
and like you said, you thought we might see Obi-Wan battle the Inquisitors, and that's kind of what I thought. Before I watched any of the show, that's kind of what I thought might happen. But at the same time, Obi-Wan is not really a killer, right? So I feel like mostly he would have wanted to defeat his enemies without killing them.
Tell that to Maul.
Yeah, but that was almost a saving, a nice thing to do to Maul.
What about poor Grievous? Grievous was just living his robotic life.
No, he wasn't.
He was the leader of
every single Jedi he came across,
and he was the leader of the Separatist army. But to get back to it, is the I totally thought that they weren't necessarily going to meet up.
Yeah,
and I did think that Obi-Wan would fight the Inquisitors to a point, and I thought he would be far more powerful than them. And that the Inquisitors wouldn't be able to handle Obi-Wan, and that's why Vader would come. But this is so much more interesting because it's a personal, it's revenge. That's all Vader wants. He wants to make Obi-Wan suffer. He drug him into the fire, and he was trying to literally scar him the same way that he had been. And I like this point because you could be like, well, why didn't he chase after him? Because he's not done torturing him. He wants to make him feel pain, and in fact, letting him escape almost more helps Vader in finding others that he could to potentially torture. And just to get at Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Do you guys have... Oh, go ahead, Quentin.
Go ahead, Josiah.
Oh, I was just going to say, did you guys get kind of like, horror movie vibes when you were seeing, like, because it was totally like...
Anytime Vader was there.
Yeah, like, and Vader's really good at this as well. Like, he doesn't run, he walks. And that's like any good horror movie. You have someone running through the woods or whatever, and the killer's just walking. Even he doesn't gotta run. I'm gonna catch you eventually, and he does, and I got those feelings like, and you could tell that Obi-Wan's legit scared,
Oh yeah,
of the
just
him,
running
and
from him.
he's just running, and Vader's just walking, and he's like, I'm gonna catch you, and like I was just like, oh man, like just all that anticipation all the way up to it. And Tyler kind of mentioned it, but when he's first like walking through the village, I mean, it throws you back a little bit to the beginning when Obi-Wan was hiding, right? When the Inquisitors come. So, and he did absolutely zero. He did nothing. Those Inquisitors could have killed that whole town and he wouldn't have done anything, right? So now, maybe after everything he's seen and what he's seen with Tala and stuff like that, he finally has a little bit of, whether it's guilt or whatever it is, to do something. And that's why he's like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna put myself in danger basically to save Leia, right?
Well, he also, I think, feels that not only that guilt of the Inquisitors are one thing, but him knowing that it's Vader and him kind of thinking, well, this is all my fault, so I need to go out there and take care of it, or at least lead them away from him.
Yeah,
because really, the Inquisitors might be after Leia, but the whole point was to get to Obi-Wan. That was the entire point of them taking Leia. That's the only reason Vader's there. If it was any other Jedi, they would just, unless the Inquisitors couldn't kill them, Vader wouldn't be on this planet.
Oh, so you think that the kidnapping of Leia was Vader's idea? I thought Reva was doing it behind his back.
I think she was, but she was doing it to suck up to Vader so that she could get the Grand Inquisitor spy. So
yeah, I think so too. But yeah,
but once she found him,
thought that.
But once she found him, now Vader wants to kill him, wants to torture him. So now it's personal. Now that he knows where he is, he's, like you said, he's not going to chase him across the galaxy in just any lead he finds, whatever. No, that's for them to do. If he's got confirmation, he's there. And they're not allowed to touch him either. Because even Reva starts to move, and as a fifth brother, he said just to sweep the town. You're not allowed. Do
not engage.
Yeah, do not engage. So it means you're not allowed to touch Obi-Wan. This is my job. And so it's personal.
Yeah. And yeah, just as he went through the town, it definitely shows it as should be. I mean, he's walking through these people like they're nothing, like they're, puppets, right? But like what kind of blew my mind is as soon as they do engage, Vader's treating him the same way, and I'm going to jump back a little bit to some different things. So famous line in Star Wars, he's too dangerous to be left alive. We've heard these words, right? And so then that's why you killed that person. Vader doesn't kill Obi-Wan because he's not dangerous to him. He's nothing. He doesn't kill Palpatine either because he's not dangerous. Vader thinks that he can overthrow Palpatine at any time. So that's why he doesn't engage him or fight him. Like he doesn't kill him because he's like, he's not dangerous to me. I'm going to use him as long as I need to, and I'll kill him when I want to. And I feel like it's a similar mindset when he engaged Obi-Wan. Like he's not even fighting that hard. He's
using one hand.
He's using one hand battling him because he's nothing. And he's proving to him, I am better. Look at all this power I told you that I could get. I now have it. And look at you're weak. You're nothing to me. I don't need to kill you. You can, run off if you want to, but I'm not afraid of you anymore.
I like the symbolism is there that he uses only one hand on the lightsaber because it's the same way he treats Luke in Empire Strikes Back when Luke has never fought anyone with a lightsaber ever before.
Yeah.
He's got this arrogance, but it's also backed up
Yeah.
And so he's basically showing, look at how weak you've become and how much better I am. And kind of to your point, like all this power that I told you I could get, I have it now, and you have none. I'm going to make you suffer for it. And one of the first moments where he sees them when they're out in the out in the dust piles and the gravel pits or whatever, when Obi-Wan first sees him, he looks at him, he asks him what you have become, and then he runs away. He didn't try to fight him. He just straight up ran away. And
what an emotional scene that was when Obi-Wan says, "What have you become?" And then Vader's response was, "What I am, what you made me."
Yes.
Which points out to his entire revenge. This is all that he wants. He's not thinking, I was manipulated by the Emperor. I was taken advantage of by everyone. I lost my wife. He just wants pure revenge, and he blames Obi-Wan for everything.
Yep. And I love that too, because throughout the end of this episode, it kept getting flashbacks to like Mustafar. And I kept like seeing like that last scene where Anakin had that very last shred possibility of hope with Padme there, his pregnant wife standing there, and there was like a moment, and maybe it's just me, but there's like the moment I felt like he could have made that right choice until Obi-Wan walks out. And then it just reminds him, he gets that blind rage once again, and it kind of throws him back into it. And then we have the memes, because of Obi-Wan. But it's true. Like that is what he thinks. He thinks, I could have had everything but Obi-Wan. I could have this and this could have happened, but Obi-Wan. And so I feel like, this is the, finally the moment that after everything that happened, he left him for dead. He comes back, right? And he can tell him, you see what happened to me? This was because of you. You pushed me to this. Whether right or wrong, that's the way that Vader feels, is he was pushed to this moment. He was pushed to, this, this horrible body now, half mechanical, half human body, this, basically this killer. He was forced to it because of Obi-Wan.
And that's kind of what Brennan says, total lack of accountability for Anakin, and or blaming everyone for their problems. And that's what happens to you when you're in that kind of anger and that state, and when you can't control your emotions, and you basically just let your emotions control you. And he's in this, like you said, blaming Obi-Wan for his problems. You can't, when you're that angry, you can't see anything else.
Yeah.
I think Yoda says it to Luke, when you're at peace, you will know the right. Basically, how do we know the difference between the light and the dark side? And Yoda says, when you are calm, at peace. And so that's all that Vader knows is the dark side at this point. He's just consumed by his anger and his rage.
Yeah. And I think like when we see him on Revenge of the Sith towards the end of the movie, he's having like flashes of becoming a Sith, like giving himself 100% to the dark side. We're seeing flashes of that, but he's mostly Anakin. And now we're finally seeing the opposite. He is full on Vader, and like maybe there's possibly, flashes that he's going to get throughout his life and up until, the end, but right now it's like, you can totally see this is 100%. He's given himself to the dark side, and the dark side is doing as it will with him.
Yeah. He's just a tool of the dark side and of the Emperor at this point.
How terrifying was it when Vader picked up Obi-Wan and just held him there by the Force, and Obi-Wan drops his lightsaber, if Vader wanted to, he could have just pulled him right onto his own lightsaber and killed him right there. But no, he wanted him to feel pain, the same pain that he felt.
He drug him into the fire.
Yeah, he wanted him to burn. And is this why Obi-Wan looks like he aged 60 years in the 20 years that he supposedly spent on Tatooine? I don't know. That could be he could be when he comes out of the back of the tank, his skin is all wrinkly and he's healthier, but he looks like he's aged 20 years because of the fire.
Yeah, that was unreal. I mean, even just seeing them, that battle, you could definitely see, Obi-Wan was just running scared, no skill, no tactics, and Vader was just, continually pressing him, walking forward, not a care in the world, not 1 ounce of fear. It was just, he was doing all, he was giving the fear at like 100%. And so, yeah, when you got to that moment and he lights the fire and everything just holy in there, like, yeah, he was just, it totally just showed. I mean, like, Vader has an immense amount of power, and Obi-Wan at this moment is just at his mercy 100%.
And I think that's kind of the eye-opening thing. I think Obi-Wan, he's been away and he hasn't been doing anything. He's had that awakening. But I also think that this was I haven't been keeping in touch with the Force. I haven't been relying on the Force.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been using it like he used to. And he's just not as strong as he used to be at this point. And I think that's where he's realizing that he needs to, start bulking up on Force points.
Yeah. More meditation.
Yeah.
A lot more.
So then Tala saves him, and then the droid that can't speak, that's reprogrammed, that doesn't do anything, is just there to save him.
Yeah.
Another droid saving Obi-Wan. And
man, I love that. Just to touch on that for a brief moment. I love that when it pans out and shows he had that hammer.
Yeah.
Like
those
to defend.
Stormtroopers.
Yeah. Oh man, I was like, that is amazing. Because they definitely made it a point to be like, oh yeah, it's a droid, doesn't talk, doesn't do anything. But then it shows you, it
understands.
It understands the situation. It understands what it's doing. It knows that it is helping the path.
Well, and Leia was talking to it, and she I don't care if he can't speak. I know. She basically was saying, I understand what he's saying, even if he can't speak.
Well, because Tala said that he's just a loader, he doesn't speak, and then Leia goes, well, what if he has something to say?
Yeah.
and then Tala says, actions speak louder than words. And he was ready to show his actions.
Yeah.
Didn't have to, luckily for them, but
yeah, luckily for them. He's a loader droid. He looks like he could pack a punch.
Oh man, he would wreck him with that hammer. Oh man.
But an interesting thing I noticed is that Tala, when they rescue Obi-Wan, she says, you need to get the transport and you take him to Jabim, which is where all the other Jedi go, or where in this network, the path, the Jedi go to Jabim to get a new identity and to help be hidden. So I think it'll be really interesting. I'm hoping in the next episode we get to see more down this path.
Yeah. But and this episode also ends in a very cliffhanger. Like, even there's not a lot to end in this kind of cliffhanger, but Reva takes Leia. And what's gonna happen there? I'm thinking, like, is Vader going to get to meet 10-year-old Leia?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to see that, really.
To be honest, I feel like it can't happen. Like, I can't see it being a possibility. So that being the case, I feel like we know Reva wants, basically to, get in the good graces of Vader, right?
Mhm.
So now she has this child that still there's the connection to Obi-Wan, right? So as long as she's alive, Obi-Wan's still going to try to get her. So she still has the ability to, lure him out or whatever. So I was thinking maybe if she has been doing this behind Vader's back, she doesn't give her ace in the hole away to anyone yet. So she keeps her somewhere, and then Vader says, "Oh, we lost Obi-Wan," and she's like, "Oh, perfect." So then she's going to once again try to lure out
Yeah,
Obi-Wan
that makes
to a
sense.
certain place.
I like that. That sounds better than.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I can't
Yeah,
imagine
I
him
feel like
seeing
if
Leia.
There's only one line that I could think of that would just somewhat make that okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is in A New Hope, he says that she says, I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan, and he says, you're a liar, you're part of the Rebel Alliance. And I know, yes, he could know the ship just escaped Rogue One, but I feel like at some point he would know that she is part, even if she doesn't know that she's his daughter, but that she's part of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, possible.
That's the only line I can think of that would be like, okay, I could see where maybe he knew who she was at least prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. I'm excited for where we go. I definitely think we're gonna get some. I know we're getting some more of that, but I'm also. I won't be surprised if we see Obi-Wan on some kind of a little spiritual journey to reclaiming his connection to the Force. That's kind of where I expect it to go. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I definitely want to see, episode 3 Obi-Wan again. And I'm kind of thinking he's gonna need some healing, right? He's probably gonna pop in a bacta tank for a bit. And maybe while he's in there, does some meditating and works on his connection with the Force. And maybe even in this half dead state that he might be in for being choked and burned and possibly even somewhat crushed by Vader's Force, that maybe when he's near death here, he could possibly make that connection with Qui-Gon Jinn that he's been missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's so many different ways. Now everybody's still on the planet, so there's lots of different ways this could kind of go. He
might not make it up. He might not make it to the ship. They could.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we stay on this planet or if Obi-Wan's unconscious and Tala gets him in a ship to Jabim, and they go there and he wakes up, in a bacta tank or whatever. And then he's like, where's Leia? And it's, a searching for her episode again, or if it's a Reva reaches out to him immediately type thing and he wants to go and maybe whoever is there, Force sensitive or not, at this welcome center for Force sensitive people is the one that says, hey, you almost died. When you came to me, you were on the thinnest thread, and it was only through the Force, or whatever, that you survived. Like, you are in no shape to go get her, to save anyone, and definitely not to face Vader. And maybe that's where you get your spiritual journey type thing, where he needs to prepare before he does that again.
Wouldn't it be just like George's poetry where it rhymes, of seeing Obi-Wan in the bacta tank while Vader's out there searching for him, wrecking people, and he's in the bacta tank burned up and hurting, and that is almost it shows you the light and the dark. That's what really this episode is showing you. It's like the pure evil and the pure light, and
Mhm.
what Obi-Wan and Vader are. And I kind of hope that is expanded on a little more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, how they leave the planet, and kind of which ways they go about it. Riva and Leia are obviously the biggest wild card. Kind of like what they end up doing, where they end
Mhm.
up going if she's like hiding her away or whatnot. The conversations between them, I imagine, are going to be humorous.
Yeah,
Because
for
in a
sure.
way, I feel like Leia is, wise way far beyond her years, and Riva didn't have a chance, to really grow up before she was, thrown into, you know, Jedi training and then into the exact opposite of like basically being an assassin for hire. So, I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
kind of just has a really crazy life. So I feel like the comparisons of like upbringing, even though Riva's obviously much older,
Mhm.
like I feel like that's going to be kind of a humorous exchange where, Leia's more wise than Riva is.
I like that point, yeah, because she's been kind of thrown in the middle of it. She Order 66 when she was young, and then probably tortured into becoming an Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, her life has not been good, probably.
Hmm.
And I know we're trying to, we're gonna start wrapping this up here shortly. And I just kind of wanted to say one thing of like, guys, if you watch Star Wars, don't hate on the actors. We saw what happened to Jake Lloyd and Ahmed Best, and we just don't need to be sending hateful messages. If you don't like a character, you don't like a character. That's fine, but you know, everyone's just trying to do entertainment, and that they're just trying to do their job. People don't need to be taking hate just because you didn't like their
Mhm.
character.
Hmm.
You can choose not to like their character, or you can choose not to like the show. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with not liking something about a piece of entertainment. But hating on people is, yeah, we just shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and I think to kind of go along with that, anybody who's watched any of our previous episodes and moving forward, we try to focus on the good things. We love Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars, and we're actively looking for the good things. Are we gonna shy away from saying when something is wrong, or we feel that it could have been directed in a different way? No, but we're
No.
always gonna do it in a positive way. You know, we're gonna be as positive as we possibly can because that's what we want people to come away from our show being uplifted and loving Star Wars even more. We definitely don't want anyone to come away from our show and hating Star Wars for one reason or another. So yeah, definitely that's what our show's about is our love for Star Wars and sharing it with all of you, all of our audience, all of our guests, everyone in our Discord server. We're just sharing our love for Star Wars and the different things that we can piece out of it to apply to our own life, find different life
Mm-hmm.
lessons that we can find little jewels that maybe people missed. But yeah, like you said it well. We aren't going to ever sit here on here and throw a bunch of hate or shade towards a certain actor or their performance or anything like that, because that's just not the type of show that we are.
Yeah, I like. I know there was a group of people that I watched, and they had a show for a little bit, but their slogan was "Find the Good," and that's pretty much how I try to treat any of my entertainment, whether it's Star Wars or anything. You can always find what you enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
well said.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up. Um, we've got our Twitter handles. You can follow us at Mostly Star Wars on Twitter, and the rest of us the links are in the description to follow us individually. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can, and also, hey, join the Discord. We've got a Discord there to discuss all things Star Wars. You can also ask us some questions that will be answered on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you ever want to be a guest on the show, definitely reach out to one of us, either on any of our Twitters, on the Mostly Star Wars Twitter or in the Discord as well. You can DM any of us on there if you want to be on a show, because we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear your side of the Star Wars story and how it's affected your life. We love to do that. So, yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Quentin? He seemed to disappear. Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.